Hi, Michael. Thank you for taking a different role and talking with me about your relationship with animals. Because once upon a time, I remember you asking me, as you watched with wonder, as I kept adding animals to my household, why? What is it about them? And I think you were genuinely curious. And then I've had the joy of watching you and your relationship with Ollie and now with Milo, of seeing something shift for you. And I just was hoping you would tell us about that.
Sure. I mean, I've always liked animals sort of in a generic way, but I never felt nearly the kind of connection that I feel with any human being until I grew up with cats mostly, and I liked them, but it was, they were there and they were doing their cat thing, and I was here and doing my thing. So with dogs, having Ollie be a part of our family and seeing how increasingly I could feel how he really was deeply connecting with me and so excited about seeing me and how that in the past was always something where I felt, well, that's just a I don't like that in humans when they're just sort of blindly uh, uh, welcoming somebody regardless of how they're getting treated. But I think I realized there was something different going on here, and so I really started to appreciate having somebody that was just genuinely living the values I I want to see in myself and in others, where there was sort of a curiosity, a kindness, an excitement, just a feeling open towards my being present with them, and so that was a definite shift here. I think what really opened the door for me was taking Ollie for walks when I did come back from sabbatical and recognizing how all this sort of meditation practice of patience and not attaching expectations to certain outcomes, I was being trained by Ollie, in that he was going all over the place. And there were times where I would just sort of flare up inside in terms of my own irritation, maybe, or so with what he was doing. And then he became a teacher in that sense, and I was able to do that again and again and begin to let go of certain ways of being. And that was helpful. So I viewed him increasingly as a teacher in those early days.
And having Milo join the family, how has that sort of changed anything?
Well, I think one big difference was that when we got Ollie, I immediately took off for a sabbatical. And so I wasn't really involved with him as a puppy, and I wasn't involved in his training. So by the time we came back, it was very clearly Kara's dog, and that was fine. But there wasn't that sort of deeper connection. And now with Milo, I'm training him. He's listening to me in a way that I don't feel I have that with Ollie in quite the same way. I mean, in part, it's just a question of opening my own heart, right, to another being. And part of my reservation had always been I don't want to get attached to somebody that I'm concerned about not being able to take care of. I mean, that was my concern around having kids to begin with, right? What if I'm not the kind of father that I want to be? And in some ways, that was similar with dogs. What if I can't be there when they need me, like when I'm on vacation, or and so what is it that so I wanted to avoid a situation where I couldn't live up to my own expectations for how I wanted to care for this other being. So I think what I've seen is multifold. One is I've seen the incredible value that having the dogs around our family has provided to people individually, how happy it makes Kara, how happy it makes Noah, how happy it makes Daniel to spend time with them, how happy it makes me just sort of playing around and goofing around. And the piece I didn't quite expect, but how much it has provided a glue to our family, you know. It's sort of when they're around, then we're all kind of connecting through the dog with each other in a way that sometimes I think wouldn't happen. And so in a way, it's going back to, the ultimate value I place in human relationships, but I can see how the animal relationships are very much an integral part of that.
And can you feel that coming back in your work in ministry, in your family life, in your relationships with people?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very much a core piece of what I aspire to in my relationships with people, and certainly in my ministry. And so I feel they have trained me in that, especially Ollie early on there, definitely contributed to my training. I continue to be concerned about what it will be like when there is the inevitable loss at some point down the road. So that is a foreboding in my in my experience, and I probably will just have to again look to that experience as a teaching moment for myself and for my relationships with humans as well.
Yeah. Thank you for naming that in our relationships with animals, they bless us with all this joy in their living and their shorter lives. And the fact that we will usually outlive our pets. Yeah, it hasn't stopped me yet, but it's hard. And thanks for naming that.
There. And then, there's this whole element of this blatant curiosity, right? Going on a walk with either one of the dogs, both of the dogs, and them going, wow, excitement over here, must sniff or must pick up or must, say hello to these people that are coming in. And that sort of joyfulness, the playfulness is just infectious. And I aspire to doing that. I recognize it in myself. I used to have it, and maybe I don't have it as much anymore as I want to. And so being around the dogs, I feel connected to that kind of energy and appreciate that. And again, that is a helpful reminder in terms of ministry as well, right? To yes, there's lots of serious stuff going on, but if we're not out there curious and playful and joyful and following the smell of the whatever it is, our noses, then we're missing out on something significant. And it is phenomenal to see how living with another being creates a depth of bond and a depth of caring, even though it's cross species, right? And so I feel that is also a reminder of proximity really matters, when we are together in closeness and in connection.
But, I think acknowledging that that's something we're grieving now too, and that for those of us who have relationships with animals in our homes, it helps soften that a little bit. Well, I will speak for myself. For me, it helps soften the isolation that I have animals I can touch, I can hug, I can, well, if they consent.
There is that element of touch, very much so. It is one of my love languages, touch, and so it's good to have that.
But it's an interesting learning to do the dance of relationship with different animals.
That's like perfect.